Hopefully be more than just the usual, use a long password speech. So let's get on to it. So doxing, how many of you guys have heard of doxing? We've discussed it in the company a couple of times briefly, but okay, so doxing became popular, the term became popular about, I don't know, 5, 6, 8 years ago when a bunch of celebrities got hacked. So these people, these scumbags would go out and put out these celebrities' personal information, phone numbers, bank accounts, addresses, and then a bunch of people could mob them, and it was a real mess. It's just slang for documenting. The short version is that you can pay somebody between $100 and $1,000 in a third world country to find out everything about you. And I mean everything. From your bank accounts to your email addresses. So it's cheap and it's fast. You might expect the hackers to go through your social media, and they will. But they'll also call your home. They'll call your kids. They'll call your parents. They'll call your office. Most people in here, maybe most is exaggerated, a lot of people in here have received phone calls from clearly scumbags looking for information on other people in the company. What you have to think about is how much money you think you have access to. So it's not a matter of how much money you have in the bank, it's how much money you have access to. Credit cards, can somebody put a loan on your house, can somebody put a loan on your car, that kind of stuff. That's really what most people are primarily worried about. And of course, in the company, we're worried about people stealing our data. You can imagine if somebody had taken some of the data from, say, I don't know, let's pick on Chevron, and they don't even have to do anything with it, other than to notify us that they have it, and we are going to be terrified because as soon as they tell Chevron or make it available, tell people that it's available, we're pretty much out of business, right? Nobody's going to deal with us. So there's that reputational risk. Anyway, these are not stupid people. There's a lot of people in this room that I know personally have had serious hacks against them, and with serious information that's been taken, where their entire machines have been encrypted, money's been taken. One of the things that these guys will do with social media that you may not have thought of, then they'll start sending you things to say, they might send you a family will, or they might send you some technical documentation from inside their fake, non-existent company, like a presentation on some secret stuff. And after a while, and what they're doing is trying to build that trust. And what they'll ask you to do with that information is to peer review it and say, would you mind just looking at this for me? Because I've got to give a presentation. I don't want to look stupid. I looked really bad in the last meeting. I don't want to do that again. Could you just look at it, please? And over time, they're building that trust relationship with you. And you might have, there's a pressure to reciprocate. So over time, as that friendship builds, you are possibly going to give them data. Now this was actually used for NATO, and I realize nobody in here is probably related to NATO, where secret military documents were given to hackers voluntarily. The point is not so much that the data was taken, it's think about how much it cost the hacker to do this. And the answer is virtually nothing. It cost the hacker a few hours of time when you add it all up, and a few months of patience, right? Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year. And here's something interesting. So now we're going to get into sort of newer stuff. So GDPR. You guys, everybody here, almost everybody here should be familiar with GDPR. GDPR is a general data protection regulation in Europe. And what it means is you have well, it's a whole lot of things, but they have, for instance, this is the key portion of it for this conversation. They have the right to be forgotten. So the right to be forgotten implies that you have the right to know what they know about you. So you can go into Google, or you can go into Facebook or Twitter and say, hey, what do you know about me? And they'll list it. Wow, is that good for hackers? So if they get into your Facebook account or your Google account, they will know everything about you. Okay, so go to Google, click your Google account, and then you go down to manage your data. Well, let's see what he can search for. Manage activity. Yes, everybody calm. So you can see that I did a search here, and I was from where I live in the Cove in Chestermere. You can see that, let's see here, oh, Ian has an RBC bank account. That's a convenient little fact. Somewhere in here it talks about my Wealthsimple account. By the way, I have a Wealthsimple account as well. And you can drill into this, yeah, there's my Wealthsimple account, right? You can drill into this and get more information. But just for the sake of time, I'm going to go back. Now, take a look at the location history. Wouldn't this be wonderful if you knew that I had traveled all over the world? And so you knew, this is where I've been, this is what Google has tracked me. So you can see I was I was over in Germany, and I was in the UK, and I was in Hawaii. But really, I just want to know where I was in 2018. Somebody just wants to know where I was in 2018. So they can, and then you can, I'm not going to do it because of time. You can click on this and drill into more information, okay? So wouldn't it be great to say, oh, I see you're back from Florida, John, blah, 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 right? And wow, then they definitely know who you are, right? Because who's going to know you were in Florida or whatever? This is going to blow you away. Call Brent Matthews on set. So there we go, that's me.
Call Brent Matthews on set.
Right? It literally has kept my actual voice. Right? So these are the commands that I've actually given it.
Samuel Jackson.
The Samuel L. Jackson movie Glass.
That was my wife. Right? So it actually is, so it's recording all of, it keeps all of that stuff. Anyway, it just goes on and on and on, YouTube and whatever else. So we're gonna get out of this, but you can imagine what a hacker can do with this information. I don't want to get sidetracked on this. I don't care what device you use, this stuff's being tracked. Facebook, Google, Twitter, whatever. Those companies are covering you. Whether Apple, the company itself, actually is tracking you, it's irrelevant. It's not important. And you'll see when we get through to the how to practically deal with this, you'll see I'm saying, like, this is nice to know, and there's ways to kill it. I wouldn't bother, because you're just going to get tracked somewhere else, and you'll see why in a minute. So, okay, another real world problem. You go to a website, perfectly legitimate. This has happened time and time again here. And you go to doesn't make any difference, any legitimate website, Calgary Herald will say. You won't be surprised to find, with the dollars that are involved here, hackers will buy ads. And they'll buy ads for Toyota, and there'll be a real Toyota 4Runner ad. Except when you click on it, it'll redirect you off to a site that looks like it's a real site, but it's actually attempting to install stuff on your computer in the background. Right? And the cost for this is nothing. I have many Google accounts, and I can tell you, I run these for literally pennies a day. I pay typically 1 cent per click, so it doesn't make any difference. Phishing, this is definitely not a new word for you guys, and we're gonna skip through this, okay? But I do want to play a few seconds of this.
I need you, or your agent attorney, to give us a call. This is Officer Robert William. Now, you'll disregard this message and return the call.
Okay, so that's the usual, most people in here probably had this. It's the usual, this is the government phoning or the police and blah, 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 and you better phone us right away because you're going to have to pay. So, now that's not the interesting part. This was the interesting part. So let's listen to what this guy says.
Okay, can you call my RCMP number, the local RCMP?
But my call display said customer RCMP and that phone number. That's the interesting part. So they just programmed it into the call display, right? Which is easy to do now. It used to be expensive and hard. Now it's super easy. This is one that just came through a few days ago. This is an actual message from Patrick. Patrick's dad, actually. This guy phoned up and he's mumbling and he said, I'm sorry, he's really hurried. He said, my lips cracked and my nose is broken, my lips are all cut. I've been in a car accident, and then he waits and Patrick's father said, you know, what? And he said, do you know who this is? And he said, it's Max. Max is Patrick's son, Patrick's dad's grandson. And he said, yeah, it's Max. I need $3,000, blah, blah, blah. I've been arrested, blah, blah, blah. That happened. The guy had no idea who the son was. He just faked out his grandfather. And how many grandparents are going to give their grandson $3,000 this minute to get him out of jail? And the answer is a lot. 20 grand? Maybe not. But. Okay, so now this is an interesting point as well, which gets to, again, what we're saying about your data, what you can do with it. You don't even have to get hacked to be hacked, because the companies you trust your data with can get hacked. Now, this is a bubble diagram of all of the notable attacks from 2014 through 2018. So, in order and in size. This is the scary one. So, Marriott Hotels attack is from your end, and from everybody's end. It's a Loft Hotels, it's Westin, it's Sheraton. So I would venture to say 100% of the people in this room have been in one of those hotels in the last decade, and probably made a reservation, probably wasn't a walk. Actually, even if you are a walk-in, they enter it. So, and you think, that's just hotel information, who cares? No, it's not. Of the 500 million people, so 500 million, I think this is the biggest attack in history. The most notable attack in history. By the way, they just reduced it to 400,000 or 400 million, so it's so much better. Of that, 138 million of them included passport information, their passport number. Now, if you've got somebody's travel information and their documents, and all their history and what they're doing, and you've got their passport information, wow, can you really take over their lives? Okay, so this is a fun little thing. We're only going to listen to 30 seconds of it, just to show you. So just to be clear, this is a professional hacker. She doesn't know the guy across the table.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. my husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry. I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for uses information and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30 seconds,
Gmail.com?
Jessica gets access to my personal email address.
She knows his name and his phone number, and that's it.
Our Uber daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes. How would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message. Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Oh, I'm not on there either?
Oh.
So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account.
Jess uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry, so there's no password on my account right now? Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my password.
Thank you so much.
So she just basically locked me out of my own account.
What used to happen is there used to be a guy that was coming after you, or more likely your company. That's no longer the case. So it used to be a victim and an attacker. So when you think, there's no way this guy's going to be that complex, you're right. It's the 30 guys that are coming after you, and you're just seeing the one. Okay, so enough of the bad guy stuff, right? You know, the hackers are so good, you don't stand a chance. Of course you do. So there are ways to protect yourself. The problem is there's no single solution. So there's no magic bullet of get antivirus or use complex passwords. Those things are all good. That's not going to save you. We're going to start with the don'ts. Don't use real details in social media. Anything you register for that you're not required, like a government account or a credit card, don't use real information. Doesn't mean you use really fake information. So what you use is what I call near information. So everybody knows my birthday. So everywhere in the world, I'm registered as September 1st. It's easy for me to remember, and it doesn't change anything for my gym membership, or my car magazine subscription, or Facebook, or anything else, right? Another thing is I live in, which means everything I have is listed as Calgary. That obviously doesn't work for shipping. You know, if you're getting something shipped to you, you have to be careful with this stuff. But basically, use near information. And yes, you can go back and change it. So for instance, I got a new gym membership a few weeks ago, and they needed my driver's license to prove who I was. And I logged in and took a look, and they'd written down that this was my birthday. They didn't ask about it, they just did it. So I sent them an email saying, oh no, you got the date wrong, it's September 1st. So if you've already registered, like we all have for whatever, go fix it. Just go change it. So that if they get the information, they can't use it against you, right? Near information is just key. Another thing, don't take surveys online or on the phone, unless you're positive who it is. There are so many fakers out there. They're not looking, they don't really care about you or whatever. They're trying to get information about you and from you. Another thing, the third item here is shut up. If you don't want your worst enemy to know it, don't put it out there. So well, that's what happens, right? So don't tell people you're going on vacation on Thursday at 6 p.m. and you'll be in Maui. There's a website that I'm not going to bring up called Please Rob Me. You can go look it up on your own, and it still exists, pleaserobme.com. And all it does is scrape Twitter and Facebook and whatever for these types of things. You put in somebody's email address, and it will go find what they can about them. So this is the big one, and this is the one I'm always harping on. Please don't click links. If PayPal sends you an account that sends you, PayPal, Royal Bank, UPS, whoever, sends you a you have to do this now, the sky is falling message, all you have to do is ignore that link and go to PayPal or Bank Montreal or whatever, and if it's real, it will pop up and say, dude, we have to validate your account. You need to put in your phone number or whatever. Don't click the link. And obviously, if you're expecting the email, then sure, click the link, right? If it's a validation of it. Okay, and the point I want to make there is, if it's worth transferring money, it's worth the effort for you to fill in the blank. Drive to the bank. Call the bank. And do not phone the number that they put in the email or whatever they sent you. Look it up. So what should you do? So the first is patch everything. And people you're thinking computers. No. Your Nest Thermostat, your cell phone, your tablet that's 6 years, and if you have a phone that no longer gets updates, you need to scrap it. Back up your data and not in your house. Because if somebody breaks in and they steal your computer, they're going to steal your stuff too. So subscribe to a service. I use OneDrive. I just push stuff out to OneDrive. You get, if you're using Office 365, which many people are at home, you get a free terabyte. That's a ton of data. Just pull your valuable stuff up there. So that if you get your machine encrypted, it's annoying, but you don't lose everything. So, and there's lots of...
How secure are those sites?
Well, that's a good question. So I have a take on that, which is today we're telling everybody to put everything out in the cloud. In 5 years, we're going to be saying, wow, we need to move it back. And that's the right thing to do because their security is probably thousands of times better than ours. But that honeypot out there is so big. And from the Chinese government to the Russian government to Steve, right there, that's just so big. It's the targets are so large, it's going to be an issue. So in a few years, it's probably really right to move it back. But for today, I still think it's the right thing to do to push it out. Get an antivirus. And I'm not speaking about for desktop or malware checker. I'm not speaking of for your PC. Everybody's got that, I hope. It's your phones and your other devices. If you can get a piece of security software on it, in particular Apple phones, you need to get, no, I'm sorry, it's just where it is, right? So all of these systems that are popular are major attack surfaces. So you need to have something checking. Don't install anything from anywhere but the official store. So if you're on fill in the blank game site that says click here to install, do not. The stores are not perfect. The Apple store and the Samsung store and the Google store or Google Play are not perfect. They do let things get through, but they check them all the time. And when something gets caught, they notify you that, hey, this has been a problem and blah, blah, blah. And they try to remove them. Password tiering is the concept of having 3 or 4, in this case I'm suggesting 3 different categories for your passwords. So your common stuff, right? Twitter, Google, Google+, Pinterest, there's nothing valuable in most of those. So use the same password. Just make it a decent password, right? Put a number in it. Next thing is the important stuff, right? That's like your LinkedIn, perhaps your Facebook, your kid's school might have some confidential information in it. If you're doing that, use a second category of password that's a little bit longer, like a passphrase. But you can still make them shared. Just don't share them with everything. So I have probably, I'm going to make this up, if I have 100 accounts, probably 80 of them are using this public, wide open password, right? That I really don't care if anybody had. Then I've probably got 10 like this, right? With these ones that are where I'm using, I've got these different systems I'm sort of worried about, but not really. And then there's your critical stuff, like your bank, the office, that kind of stuff. That's a big deal. You really need to use unique, long passwords. And just to be clear, length trumps complexity. It's just a mathematical fact. So if you're saying, well, should I put an uppercase A, or should I add a letter to it? Add a letter to it. If you do both, that's better. PIN codes, Windows 10. So we pushed out an email to everybody in this room some time ago saying use PIN codes. So what a PIN code is, a code that's only usable on the device you're physically on. When they try to remote in, it won't work. When they try to get into your webmail, it won't work. They have to have physical access to that specific device. Okay, so this gets to our friend Daniel's question, which is multi-factor authentication. This is becoming a big deal. I'm a big fan of Google Authenticator.
Unfortunately, we hear about passwords being stolen all the time, and so we'll ask for something extra after entering your password. This process is known as two-step verification. The first step being the password you entered, and the second being possession of a device, such as a phone or tablet. How do we know you have this device? That's where the Microsoft Authenticator comes into play.
Or Google or whoever's.
After setting up the app with your personal, work, or school accounts, to access your stuff, first you'll enter your password, step 1. Then you'll get a notification sent to your device. Just tap approve, and you're good to go.
So if you want to know what Twitter does, Facebook does, Google does, lots of these companies do. The problem is trying to find, where do I turn on two-factor authentication? There's a bunch of ways to do it. You can just go through and drill through your Facebook and whatever else, or you can just go to twofactorauth.org, and it's just a giant list of everything, and it tells you where it is. So it'll say, if you want to get into Facebook two-factor, this is how you turn it on. You can get around this. There's ways around this, but again, for the next 5 years, this is definitely the way to go. For anything that's important. Wealthsimple, as you now know, I have a Wealthsimple account. I don't know if it requires it, but it sure wants it. So I certainly have two-factor set up there. So what happens with Wealthsimple, you sign in, and it says, oh, we sent you a text, and you enter the 6-digit code, and then you're in. Pretty simple. So I don't need to install an app or anything else. They just send me a text. So if they've got your phone and know your password, you're probably literally in a pool of blood on the floor because they've got you, right? There are ways around two-factor, but we won't go into, but there are ways around it. So, but for today, for the next few years, this is definitely going to be the way to go. Being proactive and poking around what I like to call your digital closet once in a while. Just do something unexpected. So what I'm suggesting here is you've got an antivirus or something on your machine, fine. Leave all of that. But every once in a while, go to trendmicro.com/housecall or one of 1,000 other free services. And just click on, in my case, in almost everybody's case, Windows 64-bit, and it will do a free scan of your system. It won't cost you anything. It won't pop up ads. It won't even install. It just runs in the browser. It's really, really good. Okay, and Trend's a very reliable, reputable company. So just do a quick scan because maybe there's something there. The very first thing that malware does is turn off your antivirus, and it, of course, hides the notice that it's turned off. The thing is, just do an additional web scan once in a while. I don't mean like once a year, just whenever you feel like it. Under the Fair Credit Reporting Act in Canada, you are entitled to a free credit report once a year from TransUnion and from Equifax, sorry, the two big credit rating agencies. Don't subscribe, just say, I just want the free credit report, please. And look through and go, what was that transaction? Why is this there? Right? Just poke through your digital closet, find out what other people know about you. Go to and this is all, I have this on the handout. Have I been pawned? Pwned. Yeah, and the notion there is, right, does somebody own you? Right? Does somebody have your information? And this is great. You just type in your email address, put in your company one. In fact, I really, really encourage you to put in your company one and tell me if it shows up in any of the lists. So these guys have, they just added a collection of 780 million records from various attacks. So it's got the Yahoo breach in there, it's got the Marriott breach, it's got tons of stuff. So you'll know if at least that stuff's out there, and you can look at it and say, oh, that was 2014. It'll tell you when it was too. And you go, I changed it since I don't remember. Fine. Or, wow, that was the Marriott attack, and that was November. That's not funny. I need to go do something. Check the dark web. So the dark web, we can get into deep versus dark, whatever. It boils down to this. Our TGS is effectively the dark web. This is the stuff that isn't indexed. So you guys know, because you work here, the information that's available inside the company. But you can only get to it from the VPN when you're at home, right? You have to tunnel in. So you Google it all you want, you're not going to find it. It just isn't there. However, if you've got child pornography or something really, whatever, stolen data, yeah, that stuff doesn't get indexed. You have to know where it is, right? Just like you guys know about TGS's internal systems. Well, if you go to the Marriott site, they have a little tiny link which takes you off to answers.kroll.com. And if you read through this, it says, oh, by the way, we really screwed up. We have now, they're claiming now 400 million records that were out there. They include passport information. Anyway, what they did is, as a result, and usually these big breaches result in this, but this is the easiest one to get to. You go to answers.kroll.com, ignore everything, go to the bottom right, and it says enroll now. You put in some core information about you, and it will search through all of them, well, not all, but it searches through a number of known bad sites for information on you. It's really, really handy to do, and it's free. And keep up on new technology. So there's always new stuff that comes out, like on our Samsung phones, everybody that's got a corporate phone or a personal Samsung phone has access to, well, the newer operating system has access to this now. So this is a video we put out with the staff a short while ago. I'm just going to play 20 seconds of it.
Spam protection is a service that they offer which flags calls that might or are likely to be scams. So let's just show you what that looks like. Here are the 4 scenarios that they show. Normal call, somebody's in your contacts, or it's a valid company, valid contact, someone that is not suspect. The call just comes through as always, as you can see here. If they have no information on the phone number, then it just comes through here as no spam activity. If they think it's spam or scam, you'll get these one of these 2 windows.
So that's it, right? So there's these new little things that come up from time to time, and they're useful. This doesn't cost anything. If you have a Samsung phone with a modern version of the operating system, turn that on. Okay, so now we're down to the last 2 things. What do you do if you're hacked? So if you think your PC is in the middle, or your computer, whatever it is, Mac, doesn't make a difference, is in the middle of being encrypted, do not shut it down. Unplug it. you do not have the 30 seconds or 40 seconds to go through a shutdown process. If it's a laptop, yank the battery out. Because once that's encrypted, you're toast. So nobody really knows how often, you guys know what I'm talking about with the encryptions, or am I jumping out ahead? Okay, so what'll happen is you'll get somebody phone you and say, hi, I'm with Google, or Apple, or Microsoft, or whoever, and we've detected a problem with your computer. We need you to go to this website and install a software. You're hacking your own computer. So you're installing this garbage software that's going to encrypt everything on your machine. Then they're going to say, we own you, and you now have to give us $500 and we'll give you the unlock key. And if you don't do that, well, the problem is nobody really knows how often that information is provided, the unlock keys are provided, but Trend at least estimates about 25% of the time, they don't give it, they just take your money and laugh at you. So you don't have time to handle it. So unplug it, take it into a qualified tech, like somebody at Memory Express or wherever else, right? Get them to look at it. If your information is compromised, call, don't email, or call or go to your bank, your investment company. Just because your bank's been hacked doesn't mean your investment stuff hasn't been. If they got into one, they're likely into all of them. Call your employer. I can't get, there's a non-disclosure, so I can't get into where this is, but I can tell you there's a circumstance in which a company that everybody in this room knows, in which the hackers got into, they got people's usernames and passwords. Then they signed into the HR system as that person and changed the payroll information. So your paycheck went to them. And good luck getting that back. So, and you're never getting it back. Now, the company, of course, they did the right thing. They just paid for me again, they got hacked. But just that stuff happens. So call your employer. Notify your spouse and your family. Let them know. If nothing else, it just raises awareness and possibly involve the police. It'll be pretty obvious about the scale. And the last thing, just the summary here. So don't be paranoid, just be cautious. To sum this up, what you want to do is don't click the links, don't volunteer information, keep everything patched as you can, and poke around once in a while. Go check that Marriott thing. They owe you. See what information is out there. And by the way, it's instant. It's not like you submit it and you wait 2 days. You put in your information, and then bingo, it says, you're here, 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 and here. Okay, and it's free and it's easy. Everybody here can do it. The most important thing you can do when you've been hacked is don't be embarrassed, be angry. These guys are pros, you're not stupid. That's really it.